if that's okay.
Um, okay, so I just started the recording and I think we're good to go. So, hey Tristan, thank you for sitting down with me. Congratulations again, by the way, on landing the Microsoft internship.
Oh, thanks.
And I believe you were a Galileo Scholar this
Yeah,
year as well.
you too,
So,
right? Congrats.
congrats, Tristan. So, a quick rundown before we get started. This interview is going to have questions a little bit tailored towards how students from non-target schools, like the University of Arizona, can sort of land those internships at the big tech companies. Um, and that's sort of the angle we're going to be approaching this from. Do you have any questions, or do you want to just dive right into it?
So you said it's for students who aren't in like public colleges or are
Well, people who aren't in target schools, so people who don't go to an Ivy League or a Berkeley,
right. Okay.
um, because they obviously have an advantage because of the school brand itself.
Right. Cool.
Cool. Okay, so I mean, I'm just gonna jump right in and ask the first question,
Sounds good.
and it's a pretty basic question. It's sort of, what did your career journey look like until this point? What did you do, and what are the steps you took? How did you get from starting college to landing the Microsoft internship?
Yeah. So I think it started probably most like most other people, just like going through middle school, high school, and then after I never really had a clear decision on like what I wanted to do. So heading into college, I was like mostly just thinking I want a job that will basically pay back all the tuition I'm paying. So like I'm going into college to get a good job. So I was leaning towards like, engineering. My brother's an engineer, he's older than me. So I was like, okay, he's got a good path, I could follow him. But as I got it closer to college, I realized I wanted to do CS. It just seemed like very versatile and really open ended, which is like kind of how I've been for a while. So I wanted something with like vast possibilities. Um, so yeah, so I was taking like the usual CS coding classes. Really enjoyed projects and everything. And then I guess how my career got from just like taking classes to getting internships. Um, I think it's a variety of things. So first, like just enjoying coding and taking classes and doing fairly decent in them. Like GPA is not all important, but it helps. Um, but then like outside of that, finding so I was like first interested in finding clubs, and that is hugely beneficial because you like meet people and work on things, and if you can get like a team of people to work on something and you can actually produce something out of it to talk about in an interview, that's huge. So I got early start with some like clubs like ACM, which is no longer around, but basically just like built a little Twitter bot with a few guys in there. And then moving on from there, I got started working as a teaching assistant after getting like like people told me to do it because it's like a good job to get. And so yeah, I started working as a teaching assistant. That was really beneficial, I think. It really like gets you closer with the CS faculty, and like what people say is like one of the best ways to learn is to teach. And I think that's like really true. Like all those Python concepts, I really had to really understand them well myself before I could help other people with them. So that work was really beneficial.
Yeah, that. So you mentioned a couple of different things. You mentioned projects, you mentioned clubs, and you mentioned doing these sort of on-campus jobs like the teaching assistant. Um, do you think any of those in particular help you stand out? Like something you put on your resume that was like a wow factor, or was it more sort of networking that helped you get here?
Right. I don't think it was too much networking. Like I'm not like huge networking type of person, but definitely the friendships I've gained uh, in those clubs. Like I mentioned, I joined ACM and we built like a really simple project. We were all like first year students. Um, but then like I met a lot of friends in there, and then we actually built the next year. We did a hackathon, and we built like a website for this company. One of their dad's friends like wanted to start, so we like built an actual website, and we like learned to code React. Um, so like by the time I started getting internships, I think the first internship I got was American Express. So I think what really made me stand out in getting that one was my teaching assistant experience, and I had like a few like really minor projects, which projects are really highly recommended because you can talk about them during the interviews, and that is really important having
Right.
stuff to talk about. But also
Hmm.
like being a TA is like they really connected with like they asked a lot of questions about it. The interviewers seemed to connect with that.
All right. So the TA position felt like it was a little bit, more important on your resume.
Right. Yeah. I think on the resume, they do really just want to see that you have a passion for this material, like you're really interested in learning, and even outside of class, just like going and starting projects and meeting the people to work on things, and giving back that knowledge and like teaching people. So they, because if you're hiring someone early on, you don't really know if they're a good programmer or not. Like they're just learning. The technical skill is not really what they're testing for early on in those like first few internships, I would say. They're mostly testing like, are you do you care about this industry, or like do you have like a passion for it, and are you like a type of person who's going to keep growing and keep learning and eventually like gain those skills that are really important to these companies.
That makes sense. So, since you've had an internship at American Express and now you're doing this Microsoft internship, could you talk about some of the technologies that now you realize are important that maybe students should invest some time into learning to help them land these internships?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because what I realized joining these internships was that what we learned in class was a very small subset of what you actually do. Um, so like the way I see it is like the classes in university, they really drill down the basics of programming. Like they teach you to be a good programmer, which is hugely valuable. And that's what these jobs are looking for. But these jobs are also using all sorts of technologies that aren't necessarily taught in these like foundational classes. So, for example, both of my internships so far have been web app development, basically. So both of them have been using React. My American Express used Python as well in that code stack, and right now Microsoft is using like TypeScript. It's like instead of JavaScript, they prefer TypeScript. Um, so like I never taken a web development class. The the way I learned it was with those friends I met at that first club I joined. As I said, we started working on that website. We learned React from like a Udemy course online that was like $10, and we just started working on it. And I think that's like one of the best ways to learn is just to do it. And so surprisingly, that experience gave me the most preparation for these internships. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I think I think students do need those sort of resources that allow them to learn these technologies outside of the classroom because, like you said, foundational courses sort of cover the basics, but they don't cover sort of the modern frameworks that are used in
Yeah.
like the in companies tech
Yeah,
stacks.
exactly, and there's, like, so many other things involved with, like, coding at scale. So, like, you're gonna be using GitHub, and, you're gonna be, like, taking from their master branch, making your own
Mhm.
local branch, doing a bunch of changes, and then you have to merge it back and pass all their tests, and it's, like, a lot of systems and complicated stuff that you really don't learn in class. Like, I think we did, like, a little week or 2 on Git in, 335. That was, like, pretty much
Yeah.
it. So, like, learning Git and, there's all sorts of they use, like, Postman for APIs, like, all sorts of like, they use, like, agile processes and, workflow boards, like, to manage like there's all this stuff that you really start to see when you join an internship, which is not really what you're taught in class, but that's why it's important to
Yeah,
be like a
the
self-learner.
yeah, the 2 or 3 weeks of it that you do in 335 definitely don't cover the breadth of it, because like with Git, I think we do like commits, pushes, and pulls, but then there's like rebasing and
Yeah,
branching forks, all that stuff that you do actually use in an actual work environment. And
right.
that's just a whole other learning curve.
Yeah.
Moving on just a little bit, you've mentioned TypeScript, and I think a lot of the stuff you've worked with, including the Twitter bot, has been related in some way to web technologies. Is that sort of the paradigm you see? You think students should get into first to help them land internships, or does the paradigm uh, that they explore for their projects not really matter in
I
terms of
would,
what companies want to see?
yeah, I would say a little bit of both because on one hand, like the field of like computer science and just coding in general is so broad that if you pick like some random subject to focus your personal project on, or you're just interested in one specific field, like I'm sure there's plenty of jobs out there for that. So really, there's no need to stick with one certain thing. And if you hate web development, then don't do it. Like there's plenty of other opportunities around. But I would say, from my experience, it seems like web development is um, first of all, it's like not too hard to learn. Like from what I've heard, most people start with like web development, like JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's like most people start like that, and if you build those skills and get used to developing that, there's plenty of jobs out there. Like every company has a website, and everyone's constantly building more web apps. So I'd say a little bit of both. Like focus on web development, app development, these really popular skills, or just go into what you're interested in, and there's probably jobs there too.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I agree with what you're saying about a lot of people getting into web development early, because once you know HTML and CSS and JavaScript, taking that next step to like Node and Express and React, that's maybe a month's worth of work to like sort of get your first project or two under your belt. And so it really does make sense to sort of explore those technologies if you're looking for something popular to get into.
Absolutely, yeah.
But either way, what I'm getting from this conversation is self-learning is important, and you do need to be exploring those
Yeah,
skills sort of on your own time is what they want to see.
yeah, that's definitely true. I think in this like day and age we're living in, everything's changing so fast, and technology is expanding at like rapid rates. So self-learning is pretty much essential. And especially as a programmer, like I'm sure like if you've taken coding classes, like you start working on a project, you're gonna start like Googling and figuring out like, but so you got to get like one skill as a programmer is to get good at Googling, because like you don't want to just be searching for what's the answer to this problem and then copy and paste code. Like you're going to be searching through Python documentation and looking at built-in libraries and functions and various APIs and learning tutorials. So like all of this material is available online for free, and that's a crazy thing about programming is like you can learn anything pretty much for free. Of course, like universities provide the structure and like the resources and the professors. But I mean, if you're a great self learner, you can pretty much do whatever you want on your own.
Absolutely. And I think, well, one of the resources that the university offers is Idea Lab, which you're the coordinator of. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Idea Lab sort of offers, what it does, and did Idea Lab sort of help you with your internship application process?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give a little background. So Idea Lab is it's kind of like this club that's a part of the CS department at the University of Arizona, and it was started I think 2018 or a little while back by who's not someone who's now a CS alumni. His name is Alex Wong, but he started Idea Lab, and he was hosting like events with professors where you could meet them and like learn more, and they would like teach subjects or just talk to the students. And he would also host like office hours where you can come and work on personal projects and ask him for help, but necessarily he doesn't necessarily know what you're working on because like he's just a student like everyone else. So it's really just a place to like bounce ideas off and learn. COVID took a big hit on Idea Lab, I would say, because it's hard to run these sorts of things virtually. So I've been leading Idea Lab for the last 2 semesters virtually, and I haven't had a much time to focus on it. I've been doing a lot of other stuff. But basically, the direction I see it going, and now that we're going to be opening up next semester back in person, hopefully, we can actually get some cool stuff going on. So the way I see Idea Lab, it's a coding community where students can go outside of class and develop the necessary skills you need for the industry. So um, what I really, what I'm really trying to push and get like stabilized in Idea Lab is like a place to come work on personal projects. So I'm hoping I'll I'll probably be running my own personal project of like building some Android app, and like if you want to join me, you can come join in, pool my Git code, start working on it, and then like collaborate. And then you can, if you want to bring a project, you can work on it, get some help, or you can like open it up to new team members so you can like host like a project team, or you can like see various projects that are currently taking place and you can join in on them with like the leader's permission. Um, so like I'm really just hoping to make Idea Lab into this community where students can come and work on projects. Get that experience is really huge. It builds a lot of soft skills like working with other students, talking about technologies, and um, yeah, working on code bases together, which is also plenty more skill that you need for working on code bases inside of companies. And then like, after if we can really get a community going, I'm really hoping it can be something that is outside of myself, where it's just a community that where students just help each other. And if you have an interview coming up, you can come into Idea Lab, get some help on it, like prep for the interview, or get your resume looked over, or discuss some crazy idea you had, see if it's viable, or we're just trying to be a coding community. So I'm gonna hope to like get some more going next semester with Idea Lab.
Definitely, and I think that's something our club is trying to do as well, sort of foster that stronger CS community where it sort of is its own thing that's happening even outside of just the events that we put on. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and
Um,
sorry, I was just
oh,
gonna say that, like, the great thing about it is, like, your community and the Idea Lab community, or, like, not your community, but the Google, Developer Student Club and Idea Lab, like, there's a lot of great, like, uh, synergies we can get. Like, you guys have a lot of great materials, and we have, like, a cool community, and it would just be great to see, these things grow together and provide more
yeah,
opportunities to the students.
exactly, for sure. I think there's a lot of potential for like not just our clubs, but like other CS clubs and maybe even the engineering clubs to like come together and like form one big sort of hub for students to go and get access to some amazing resources.
Absolutely.
Um, so branching off of that just a little bit, and I'm not sure if this is a question that you necessarily would be able to answer, but besides university resources, were there any resources from outside the university that help you sort of like, conferences or hackathons that other than Hack Arizona that you attended, maybe certain MLH hackathons, anything in general, like networking events that you thought were useful or you know of?
Sure. Yeah, so in terms of those events, I don't have too much experience. Like, I recommend hackathons, coding challenges, just doing them because it's just experience. Like, even if you don't build anything really cool, or you don't solve, like, you don't place or get any awards, it's just working and building your skills. So, events like that, I highly recommend. I haven't been to active with those, but my limited experience has been really valuable. Other resources, for me, just like the internet has been a huge resource in learning new skills. So like YouTube has endless tutorials, endless new ideas people are working on, and really you can look into like things that are really far out and like beyond you, and like learn new skills like AI and stuff like that's really far ahead. But you can just like learn about it in general, or you can like get into things that um, like you can take tutorials on like how to code stuff. And like MIT has a bunch of open uh, like courses. They open up their courses and post them on YouTube. There's like there's a few in the Idea Lab has a Discord, and I share some resources every now and then. So like there's this website that will just like teach you like a whole networking 101 course, like how the internet networking works. And it's all free. And then there's like a CS50 class, which is great for beginners. It teaches you C code, and it's like I think it's hosted by MIT. Um, so a ton of internet resources, and then more general like books are great to learn. Like I've been reading some of Ray Kurzweil's books, and it's like just shows you like how fast technology is advancing. Things like that are really helpful, and then um, yeah, just learning in general to build technical skills, and then also soft skills and general knowledge about like um, practices to help you, perform better or just feel better while you're working. Like meditation is really important, and exercise and like learning about all those sorts of things is really important as well.
Yep, you definitely have to sort of maintain that balance so you don't work out. And since you mentioned a few courses from MIT, I'm gonna sort of throw in some others that I know of, and then what I'll do is I'm gonna link the Idea Lab Discord, the MIT course, and some of these other things
Sounds good.
in the post and in the description of the video. That way you can like people who are watching this can access this. So one of those, I don't know if you heard of this. It's Free Code Camp. They have a ton of tutorials on YouTube. They have like 8 or 10 hour courses on React and then TensorFlow and stuff. I think
Nice.
I'm doing their like React course right now, but they have some great resources and they're all available for free. There's also like some YouTube channels that I'm gonna link who that cover like different paradigms, and those are all great learning resources, like Christian said, because like the internet is a great place for doing that self learning. That's so important.
Yeah.
Um, Besides that, was there anything else that we wanted to talk about? Because I'm sort of looking at my list of questions, and I think you answered them uh, as part of other questions. So I'm sort of done here.
um yeah, so let's see. I guess like the real point I want to push home to these people, it doesn't really like you mentioned at the start, a lot of the people listening probably aren't in like Ivy schools or like Harvard or super fancy schools or whatever. But the point I think we're trying to make is that that doesn't that's no excuse, and it doesn't necessarily hinder you. With the way I guess technology has developed, everything especially with coding, learning how to code, and with plenty of other skills. There's so many resources online, and if you can really just develop like a joy for like learning on your own, you can basically accomplish pretty much anything, whether you're at Harvard or at like a community college. Um, I feel like the industries, especially with like companies like Tesla, they don't necessarily require degrees anymore. They're just looking for skills. So if you can find a way to develop those skills, you can take online courses or anything like that. That is really important. And reaching out to communities like the Google Club, or hopefully like Idea Lab, will be able to provide more value in the future. And like services like this, because the way I see it, like the three most important things that have helped me personally get like internships, first of all, is like work. So the work you do in your personal projects, the work you do like learning through school, the work you do, like for me, being a teaching assistant, or there's like plenty of other great jobs universities offer. You can also just like get an early start web development and start writing websites for people. So work is really important. Second, I would say developing soft skills, because like interviews is pretty much focused, especially early stages. It's really focused on soft skills because like they don't expect you to have huge technical like acumen or whatever, but you'll just be, like, talking and, like, they'll be asking you behavioral questions, like, ask you about, like, what happened in the past and, like, how you overcame certain things and just, like, being able to communicate and also when you're writing code, like, being able to share what you're thinking about when you're writing the code and various soft skills like that, hugely important. And then lastly, is just, like, I guess you could call it networking, but I like to call it just, like, friendships. If you can connect with people working in similar areas as you, it's hugely beneficial not only as like motivation to like work on projects together and get things going and really make some cool stuff or whatever, but also just like encouragement, and they'll provide like new ideas. Like I only became a TA because friends recommended it. I only like um, worked on these projects because I found friends and worked on that with them. Um, and like another beneficial part of getting my Microsoft internship was a recommendation letter from a friend who worked at Microsoft. So like, you know, and then when you get into these internships, you'll be working with teams and you want to like develop your network. Because if you know someone at a company, they will, if they know you're good and they know you, they'll recommend you, which is a huge like foot in the door. So yeah, work, soft skills, and friendships are three really important things to develop.
Yep, for sure. So I know I said I'm out of questions, but because you mentioned that recommendation letter, can you talk a little bit more about uh, how that happened and maybe how you connected, what that process was?
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, I just when I was applying for internships, I was just like applying online and getting a few, like mostly just being ignored, but getting a few hits there. But I have like a friend from the University of Arizona who works at Microsoft, so he knows me. He knows like uh, all the work I do at the University of Arizona. So he's like, "Yeah, you would be a good fit here. I'm gonna recommend you to my team." So like I think the Microsoft application, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I'm not sure how correlated it was to the recommendation letter, but that's definitely what got me on the team I'm in because I'm working on Microsoft like the whiteboard team. So the recommendation letter set me
Cool.
into that team. So um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I guess all it really took to get that letter was just having a friend there, reaching out and asking, and having people who know your skills and who want to recommend you to jobs is a good thing to like uh, try to strive for, I guess.
Yep. Uh, Yeah, that's great advice. I think we covered a lot of good stuff today. I'm going to link a bunch of resources. But besides that, I think we're done here. Thank you again
Yeah,
for doing this. I'm sure this is going to be useful to a lot of people. And with that, I am going to end the recording now.
yeah. Well, thank you very
Thanks,
much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Tristan.